Both of those striking federal cases that made history against Donald Trump have now been dismissed, and the only U.S. president to ever be criminally charged is now fully reaping the benefits of winning back the White House. Special counsel Jack Smith moved to drop his charges in the election interference and the classified documents cases, given the longstanding Justice Department policy that a sitting president cannot be prosecuted. Judge Tanya Chutkan in Washington quickly granted Jack Smith's request today. And of course, down in Florida, Judge Eileen Cannon had dismissed that documents case over the summer as Smith was trying to revive it, but now is no longer doing so. It may not be the last that we hear of that case, though, because others were indicted there as well. More on that in a moment with our experts. But tonight, Jack Smith made sure to mention this in his filings. He said, quote, "The government's position on the merits of the defendant's prosecution has not changed. The circumstances have." Those circumstances, of course, being Trump's re-election to office. It's been an extraordinary turn of events since Smith first announced these indictments, which I should remind you were handed down by grand juries made up of American citizens.
Charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, as well as participating in a conspiracy to obstruct justice. Charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone.
Of course, not everyone. The president-elect reveling in this major victory, posting, "I persevered against all odds and won." Now, Jack Smith left the door open for charges to be brought again in the future after Trump leaves office in 2029, when he'll be 82 years old. My lead sources tonight, Ellie Honig, former federal prosecutor, and Maggie Haberman, senior political correspondent for the New York Times. Ellie, can we just talk about how Jack Smith did this? And, you know, was this his only option, essentially, that he had left, given Trump is promising to fire him 2 seconds after taking office?
It was his only option. He had to do it. He did the right thing today. It's important to understand why, though. It's not because of that promise to fire him. It's because, and Jack Smith said this in his motion, it's because of the DOJ policy, which goes all the way back to 1973
Which is a
Watergate.
policy, not a law, right?
Right. It's an internal, exactly, it's a good point. It's not a statute. It's not passed by Congress. We don't actually know if it's right or wrong. It's just been DOJ's internal view. Back from Watergate, they reevaluated it during the Clinton era in 2000. They actually reevaluated it now. I found that interesting. Jack Smith said in his motion today, I went back to OLC, these genius Office of Legal Counsel, these constitutional lawyers. I said, does it apply here? And they said, yes. I, Jack Smith, am bound by that. Hence, we moved to dismiss.
And remember, this OLC memo, opinion, advice, whatever we're going to call it, this has come up with Trump before. This came up when he was president previously, and there was the Robert Mueller investigation, and there was the question of will Trump be indicted in this investigation. And it was easy to lose track of this, but it was pretty clear that Mueller was very unlikely to challenge that policy, and he never did.
Yeah, but, you know, the idea that he's saying charges could still be brought in the future, I mean, looking at that, Ellie, is that at all realistic? I mean, there's certainly some people who would be hoping that that would be revived in 2029. But the idea of that happening, I think, you know, and Trump could pardon himself. I don't know.
Let's be real. That's not happening. I mean, it is only in the most theoretical possible sense. I mean, imagine this, right? Fast forward 4 years. Who knows where anyone will be in 4 years? You're going to have whoever wins the White House, whether it's Gretchen Whitmer or J.D. Vance or whoever, new AG is going to say, let's revive a case that's been dismissed 4 years ago, that's probably statute of limitations out, that has to do with it is over. People are clinging to that thin reed. It's not coming back.
But you know what's not over is what happens after this. And this is what I'm really curious to watch when Trump does retake office, because it's how they handled this now when they're back in power. Dan Scavino is one of Trump's longest, most loyal aides. And he tweeted just a few moments ago about many people's lives were destroyed over the past 4 years since we walked out of the White House. He said there was a relentless barrage of knocks on the front door at home, subpoena after subpoena after subpoena. Over the last 4 years, I have lots of questions.
Well, and they all feel that way in Trump's world. I mean, I think you have to remember that it is not just the January 6th investigation, which related to a lot of people who were in the White House, and we've obviously seen the fallout of that. Then there's the documents investigation in Florida, which related to a much smaller group of people, actually, who were around Trump, but they all feel as if their lives were turned upside down, and they were, you know, they were hanging on in the hopes that he would win. I mean, Trump was very clear with a number of people back in 2023 when he got indicted that, if he won, this would all go away. That's obviously what happened. No, the Manhattan case doesn't magically go away that he was convicted in, but they're not sentencing a sitting president. We've seen that get delayed indefinitely now, and the Georgia case is a real question mark for me. He is articulating what they all feel. What that ends up looking like, Caitlin, I don't know, because there are civil service rules about the prosecutors who worked on these cases. And so the question becomes, Trump can't just fire them. He doesn't have that magic power. But it is very clear that his team is talking about this.
Can they make their life hell, though?
That's what I was about to say. And they can make it so miserable that in the hopes that they leave, that they just, go off on their own. And then if anybody is left, then they'll figure out what to do.
Yeah, I think we need to, I need to throw a red flag here on this kind of comments by Dan Scavino and others, because we're seeing it regularly, these threats. We're going to prosecute the prosecutors, investigate the investigators. I mean, look, I have been critical of Jack Smith. I stand by all of my criticism of him. I think there were times he did things that are against DOJ principle. But if we're talking about opening a criminal investigation, there is zero evidence to justify that. And you make a good point, Caitlin. Even an investigation, I mean, there are safeguards that would hopefully prevent some sort of ridiculous indictment, but even an investigation can turn someone's life upside down. It's extraordinarily expensive. You get a subpoena, that's 6 figures to defend.
But the Trump team is going to say, that's what you did to us.
Right.
That's what they say now.
Yeah, it's childlike retribution. I mean, if Trump was wronged, there is, an examination to be done of that. And I have no problem with the Inspector General, DOJ's internal watchdog, doing a dive and saying, Jack Smith stepped over the line here, here, and here. They did it to James Comey, a scathing report. But if you're talking about opening criminal investigations, whole different story.
But that doesn't stop the Trump team. I mean, I understand that you're saying that's the norm, but I was thinking Pam Bondi is his new pick for Attorney General, and we were looking at what she said about a year ago on Fox News.
Pretty blatant.
Well, listen to her in her own words.
Yeah.
The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated, because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows. But now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated, and the House needs to be cleaned out.
I mean, what does Attorney General Pam Bondi do if she's confirmed and the president calls her and says, I'd like you to investigate J.P. Cooney and Molly Gasson and these prosecutors who were on Jack Smith's team?
I think you can expect that Pam Bondi and everybody else who has to go through a confirmation hearing are going to be asked by the Democratic senators about those comments, and it'll be very interesting to see what she says. I mean, to your point, there was a lot of celebration about Matt Gaetz not being in that role anymore, and with reason. Matt Gaetz was investigated by that department and has all kinds of baggage, but it's not as if, the I'm going to clean this all out vow from Pam Bondi is especially different. There are so many unanswered questions, Caitlin, but if the idea is that there's lots of people around Trump in the White House who are going to try to prevent him from doing this, I think people are sorely mistaken.
Yeah, I think this Justice Department is going to look very different than the first Trump Justice Department, right? Jeff Sessions recused himself off Russia, and Mueller was appointed. Nothing like that is going to happen this time through, right? Pam Bondi is not going to be taking herself off big cases. There is not going to be a special counsel investigating the administration.
Rod Rosenstein is not walking through that door.
Bill Barr, even. I'll say,
Will there be any special counsels at all? I mean, they've spent months talking about how terrible Jack Smith was as a special counsel. It'll be interesting to see what this looks like.
I think there is not going to be any special counsel in the traditional sense of investigating the administration, which is what we've seen historically. My question is, will there be a special counsel going the other way?
That's my point.
Yeah.
But does any of this factor into Jack Smith's mind when he's considering writing a report? I mean, the line I keep hearing is, well, the report won't have anything surprising or new in it, but I still think having it together and publishing something scathing right before Trump takes office reminds me of, when Trump was informed about the Russia investigation right before he took office, and how that affected the first 6 months of his presidency. Changed the next 4 years of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Trump is very much, as you know well, about information control. And so the idea that there can be this information that he is not overseeing that can get out there in some way I am positive when he gets around to focusing on it will be an issue for him. But what that looks like, I don't know. I mean, I do think that this is sort of a related, not entirely on point, but it is related. The fact that the transition is not
love that setup.
doing my best here. Stay with me, will you?
Freestyle.
The fact that the transition is at Mar-a-Lago and not in New York like last time, half New York, half Washington, and this is not my New York bias speaking, it's that it actually, they can exist in this bubble, this sort of halcyon bubble of we won, we did it all, you know, we are going to come in and we're gonna shake things up. And Washington is not Mar-a-Lago, and it is a very big government. And so they are going to show up and they're going to want to do things a certain way, and he's going to want to control information and, you know, function in the way that he prefers functioning. And that will still be a challenge for him.